one of the most brazen backroom campaigns in recent history. The coordinated effort by Jeffrey Epstein and Alan Dershowitz, the Dersh, to discredit influential Israel lobby paper by John Mersheimer and Stephen Walt, while simultaneously attacking an underage victim of Epstein's own abuse. Yes, you heard me right. Epstein participated in the cover-up of a famous paper which empirically linked Israeli influence over the United States government with large capital donors. They're to an extent the OGs who talked about AIPAC and so on and so on. Their actions, hilariously and tragically, reinforce the very point that the writers made in their so-called controversial study. America's political landscape is shaped and often skewed by pro-Israel lobbying, especially when billionaire fixers, Ivy League institutions, and powerful lawyers hop on to pressure the train. But first, if you think conspiracy theories about Ivy League, billionaire sex offenders, and foreign policy sound too outlandish for reality, you've not been listening to this show hard enough. Get ready to be deprogrammed. I always wanted to actually say it. Anyways, let's begin. It is March 2006. The Harvard Kennedy School published the now infamous working paper, The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, authored by political science heavyweights John Mersheimer and Stephen Walt. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill academic critique. It was a bold, point-by-point argument that pro-Israel advocacy groups, think AIPAC, major donors, think tanks, even Christian Zionists, were yanking U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East towards special interests. This wasn't just about policy, as the paper noted. The lobby was, quote, diverting U.S. foreign policy as far from what the American national interest would otherwise suggest, while simultaneously convincing Americans that U.S. and Israeli interests are essentially identical. The reaction was explosive. Even before the paper dropped online, editors at The Atlantic, who originally commissioned it, by the way, offered the authors a $10,000 kill fee to immediately not publish it. Mersheimer, in an interview, told Tucker Carlson,
if they didn't take the article, they'd give us $10,000. So I said to Steve, I remember it very well, that's the fastest $10,000 we ever made.
Academic clout couldn't save them from a backlash so swift and so public that Harvard scrubbed its logo from the paper and ran a disclaimer, quote, the Kennedy School does not endorse. Hence, ladies and gentlemen and NBs, the backlash to the story itself proved their point. Here, enter Epstein. Little did anyone know at the time, but Jeffrey Epstein was actively helping Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz craft the talking points that would be used to trash Walt and Mersheimer. A trove of Epstein's emails, now fully verified, showed that during the very week of the paper's release, he was reviewing and distributing drafts of Dershowitz's attack op-ed titled Debunking the Newest and Oldest Jewish Conspiracy. In this piece, Dershowitz accused Mersheimer and Walt of recycling discredited trash from neo-Nazi and Islamist sites and compared their work to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Who knows, the OG anti-Semitism guide. Upon receiving Dershowitz's draft, Epstein wrote, quote, terrific, congratulations. Shortly after, Dershowitz's assistant asked Epstein to circulate the piece, and Epstein replied, yes, I've started. So not only was Epstein a world-class creeper and trafficker, he was moonlighting as a PR agent for we know which lobby. Talk about extracurriculars, okay? But here is where the joke nearly writes itself. Wealthy, well-connected men are actively using their networks to undermine a paper arguing that wealthy, well-connected men use their network to skew U.S. policy for Israel. If you wanted a snake eating its own ass of corruption, exploitation, and hypocrisy, you got it right here. To use this story as a, I guess, we are a Marxist show after all, as a case study on systemic corruption in empire, we have to understand that Epstein wasn't just some random lawyer's friend. He was a big donor at Harvard, dropping over $9 million in contribution between 1998 and 2008. He positioned himself as the patron saint of powerful academics, schmoozing with Larry Summers, the then president of Harvard, Dershowitz, and funneling money via Wexner Foundation programs for Israeli government officials. You got to remember, the Kennedy School had nearly $20 million from Wexner's family office, managed by Epstein, to bring Israeli officials into Harvard's orbit. That's a lobby straight through the halls of academia, which is supposed to be, the last place of intellectual, unbiased principles. But it's not, nor was it arguably ever, unfortunately. To continue, after a while, Harvard eventually tried to clean house, kind of, sort of, but only because everyone now knew Epstein was a pedophile child trafficker. And after his conviction, the university claimed to have cut ties, but listen to this, but they admitted that hundreds of thousands of his donated dollars still remained. And only after the full scandal broke did they attempt to redirect unspent funds to groups supporting victims of sexual crimes. If that feels a little bit too little, too late, well, welcome to academia in the age of billionaire patrons. But back to Walton Mersheimer. The attack on them wasn't just about op-eds. It was a full-throttle effort to destroy them. The Chicago Council on Global Affairs canceled their scheduled talks in 2007 after, obviously, pressure of pro-Israel supporters. Invites from institutions now required balance, code for opposing speakers sympathetic to Israel. If they would go talk anywhere, there would have to be professional Hasbara people there to counter-argue them. Because otherwise it would be like, them spreading anti-Semitism or some fucking shit. Their mainstream platform narrowed, and the discussions about the pro-Israel lobby's influence became a complete taboo in both academia and think tanks, something that has only now returned after they killed how many people. Mersheimer wasn't completely silenced, though. Recently, the rise of independent media and YouTube has given him new life as a commentator. He quipped to Drop Site, and I'm quoting, "I'm not surprised to see these emails because Dershowitz and Epstein were close and both have a passionate attachment to Israel." Walt declined to comment, probably wisely. But if you're not satisfied with one orchestrated smear campaign, now tied to the world's most famous pedophile, like this story doesn't get better, like this is insane, you will love the twist. During the same week, Epstein and Dershowitz were mobilizing against the Israel lobby paper. They ran a concurrent campaign to destroy the credibility of one of Epstein's underage assault victims. Mm-hmm. In a letter sent to Dershowitz, who also served as Epstein's defense attorney, Epstein passed info dug up by a private investigator to quote-unquote undermine testimony against him. The letter accused the victim of drugs, shoplifting, and other sexual activity, dragging in even her family history to further dirty her character. Epstein even complained that the prosecutors told him to, quote, chill, advising him that the case would fizzle only for it to go forward anyway. Retrace that in your brain. At the same time as they were doing a heavy-duty campaign to silence a paper that was empirically showing a connection between the Israeli lobby, the Zionist lobby, and before fucking people scream anti-Semitism, I said Zionist, not Jewish or whatever bullshit, the lobby and the United States government. At that same time, they were also trying to undermine the testimony of a person that was sexually assaulted by the same group of people.
It's insane. Yeah.
Come on. It doesn't get more cartoonish. But to finish off, okay, I'm not going to drag this on anymore. What does this circus of sabotage, character assassination, and defensive maneuvering tell us? The backlash proved the central thesis of what those two gentlemen wrote. Wealthy, well-connected individuals use their financial and institutional networks to shape policy and suppress dissent. And far from being a crackpot theory, the evidence of coordinated smears blessed by most Ivy League institutions, media outlets, and billionaire patrons showed us how big power works in the good U.S. of A.
Like, you don't. What do you even say at that point? It's like, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Like,
it's speechless. Yeah.
This
like
is
you know how you have
democracy.
you know how you have points. You know, like we run the show, so we now have points of all the stories that we got to cover. And at some point, Epstein and Dershowitz were sitting in the same room. We're like, so what we got to do today? Sabotage those two guys that are writing about the Israel lobby, and sabotage that child that you probably essayed. That's a meeting. Like, that sounds insane, right? Like, that sounds stupid. That's like, what the fuck? But now it's black on white, dude. There's emails,
and there's
black
even
on
worse
white.
meetings. That's the problem. The meetings. There's shit we don't know that.
Oh, for sure, and we never will. Which is it's.
Oh.
But like Epstein, he wasn't insane, right? He wasn't a psychopath.
No, he was a regular guy who
just
served particular interests.
It's just insane. I can't fathom it. And this is my sticking point that I always get stuck on, and you guys always like help me understand. Like, this is, these are normal people. But still, I'm trying to put myself in those shoes as awful as that is. One should never try to imagine doing the things that Epstein and his associates did. But it's like I can't do it. I cannot imagine sitting down at like, this is my job. Let's see how many children we can today and cover it up. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, these are the same people who advocate for every single war around the world in service of American foreign policy. They don't care, Habib, when you don't have any morals in this way. Or not any morals. When their morals are so clouded by what they believe is, because some of them are so heavily ideologized into believing things that they do.
True believers,
and there are the other ones who are basically see through it, but they have so much to gain and to benefit that eventually they're bought out. And it's like that old saying, which I don't really like, but sometimes it is accurate, especially for these types. Everybody has a price. For some people, and I wouldn't say everybody, for some people, goddamn, there is a price, and they'll do all this.
I can't believe you used that particular term, because if there was any term that could describe Epstein and the way he rose through the ranks, quote unquote, is exactly that. Okay, the reason we cannot comprehend being him is because we never walked through the same level of holes of power that he did, and the same way we normalize certain things that we do to, for example, rise through the particular hierarchies that we find ourselves in, right? And they seem relatively normal to us. Borderline run a sex child trafficking ring is what you gotta do, and it looks normal to you when you're rising through the ranks of demons, fucking billionaire, evil imperialists, and so on, that he was surrounded with. I'm unironically doing system you find yourself in is what informs who you're like for Epstein, because that's unironically, I think, like,
Hugo's nature
correct
versus nurturing Epstein.
No, this is just Marx. This is classic Marxist analysis. Yeah, and he's just, I want to grow no matter what. Enters that world, and sure, he had some proclivities, which blah blah blah. This is not. We're not true and on shout out. We're not just gonna talk about that shit. But he entered that world, and he wanted to rise through that world. And if you want to rise through that world, you gotta fuck a couple of kids.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
I know I'm making a clippable moment, but unironically, like that's it.
Yeah, you're right. You boys are.
You don't have to put your reproductive organ in them. You can fuck over a couple of kids that work in fucking cobalt mines.
Sure.
You can fuck over a couple of kids that have the building collapse on them. But to reach that level of power, you are either fucking kids or fucking killing kids. And there's no denying that.
Yeah, Epstein's like, ¿por qué no los dos? Yeah, he does both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.